Hello everybody of the Turning subreddit. I wanted to make a video for y'all about this Glen Lucas GL1 French curve negative rake scraper. I'm doing this because I put a post up recently about how I got it. I really liked it. I still do really like it. And it had 300 some on people react to it, and I wanted to put an update about it because I also don't want to mislead anybody, and I've been learning a bit about this tool, and well, there's kind of an issue in my opinion about it that has to be dealt with if you do buy one, and unsurprisingly it comes down to sharpening. Now I've been through at least a handful of tools by this point, and I know that sharpening always ends up becoming an issue, especially when you're talking about signature tools. But I feel like this one is particularly misleading because I'd put a pretty good amount of effort before buying it into looking into, okay, making sure that I could sharpen it and I had what I needed. Anyway, what it boils down to is this. You look at it, you look at Glen Lucas's website, and it'll just tell you, hey, this is it says it's a 66 degree grind, okay? So that right there, that angle supposedly is 66 degrees all the way around. And okay, that sounds good, but I dug deeper. I use both a slow speed Rikon grinder for shaping and also a Tormek for sharpening, and I wanted to make sure that I'd be able to do it. So I looked, and Tormek even had a whole thing on their forums about sharpening this exact tool. And they'd said that someone on there had specifically spoken to Glen Lucas, who even sent him videos saying, hey, yeah, no problem. If you just get this jig, I think it's called the SVD 110. I'll show it to you in just a second. Yeah, you'd be fine. You can set it up and you can grind it and you're good to go. And they showed him, do it in a vertical orientation on the Tormek and whatever. Okay, well, basically it's a load of BS. And I'm going to show you why. So, first of all, this 66 degree thing, okay? Well, I don't know where I got this thing, but I love this thing. It's been very helpful in a number of ways. I've just had it sitting around for a while. But it was really helpful here because, as you can tell, you can measure angles of things. So this right here being 90 degrees, so this little spot here would be 90 degrees. And as you come in, 80, 70, whatever, etc., right? So he says this is supposed to be a 66 degree grind, right? So there I can lock in 66. Now I can fiddle around here on video and try and get this in focus and whatever, but I'll save you the trouble, okay? Here's what happens. As I get this tool and I line it up along here and I go around, what ends up happening is that this kind of like the 45 degree part of the tool, the part you would expect that you would end up using the most, that is about 66. Okay, I'll give him that. I don't think it's quite 66, but it's in the ballpark of 66, okay? But here's the problem. If you go back this way, that angle starts increasing, okay? 70, 72, 73, okay? If you start going this way, it also increases, right? So the angle is least here, and that least angle is about what he says, 66. But if you start going this way, 70, 80, by the end of the sharp point here, you're almost at 90 degrees actually, which is kind of baffling because when you look at it, it kind of seems like, oh, it's all the same angle, but you have to really study it to understand that no, that angle does change, and it changes a lot as you go along that curve. And you can even see, if you look closely and you're familiar with sharpening and making bevels and stuff, this is you can see the remnants of an early pass on my Tormek where I was totally confused because I was like, wait a second, why am I could get it to be about flush here But then as I went this way, all of a sudden now I'm just grinding here. And as I went this way, I just started grinding here. So it wasn't even close as he tried to go across. So the angle dramatically shifts from 60 to in the 80s degrees, okay, as you go along this curve, which is pretty annoying because you look at it and you think, oh, cool, French curve, whatever, like I'll be able to sweep along a bowl. Well, you know, yeah, you could, but how are you going to sharpen this thing, right? So let's look at what they said would work. So what Glen Lucas himself had apparently provided these Tormek forum guys was advice on getting this little jig, which is not a big deal. It's like $50 or something like that. And in his advice, you actually take this out, and I've done this before, you actually stick the support bar vertically, and then you can sharpen the tool kind of pushing down like this, whatever. Okay, I'll explain why I don't have it that way. But, okay, so he was like, yeah, that's all you got to do. Well, if you look at this jig, what's the purpose of this jig? All the jig does is basically give you a nice long, surface area which you can hold down with your hands to keep it stable, while locking in basically a permanent angle of approach to your sharpening wheel, right? Okay, well, that's all fine and dandy if there's one angle of approach, 66 degrees, but it's completely useless if the angle is all over the place, ranging from 70 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 85, right? It doesn't do you any good whatsoever. So I call BS on the people saying, oh yeah, it works fine when you do that. So this thing, I mean, it's just no good if you're even attempting to keep the manufacturer's grind, which I get it, right? Normally we have to regrind a lot of our tools to the profile that we like before we sharpen them. But I just want to make it clear, that is the case here as well. Hold on, my son just tried to come in. Hang on, Finn, I'll be back. Okay, so to be clear, it's a great tool, I love the tool, but don't be fooled by so much of the stuff that's out there, even apparently from Lucas himself, saying, oh yeah, just get this as a 66 degree all around. It's BS, okay? You're going to have to regrind the profile of this thing majorly if you want to be able to sharpen the edge in a continuous manner, okay? What you could do is say, oh, I'll just sharpen like, I'll lock this jig in and I'll sharpen like a little bit of it, and then I'll have to readjust the jig to a different angle, and then I'll sharpen a little bit of it, and then blah, 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 right? That sucks. Who wants to do that? You could also just say, well, I'll just only use this section of the tool. I thought about doing that. That might work for all right, but the reality is, I mean, especially if you start trying to do more dramatic bowl shapes, I mean, you bought it for a reason. You're wanting to be able to get in these bowls and reach hard to reach places, right? And use the whole sweeping edge of that curve, not just be stuck with, okay, I can only use this specific spot, okay? Okay, so I guess that leaves us with the only inevitable reality, which is, okay, so we probably are going to have to reshape this thing. Well, reshaping it obviously sucks on the Tormek. You definitely don't want to reshape a tool on Tormek. So then you got to go to this guy. And you can get this set up so that you can grind to a profile, which I can then directly translate to the Tormek, right? But you can't set this up in a vertical orientation, right? So that's why, one way or another, I'm going to have to grind this thing to something else here and then bring it over there, and that's why I have this set up in this orientation, because I'm probably going to have to use it that way anyway. So at this point, yeah, I think I'm pretty much stuck with the reality that I'm gonna have to, if I want to be able to use the whole curve and be able to sharpen it easily and in one pass, I'm gonna have to take it, I'm gonna have to put it on here, and I'm gonna have to pretty dramatically regrind the majority of the profile so that it is actually one angle, like they claim it is one angle, and it's not whatsoever. And then at that point, then it's not going to be too big of a deal. But anyway, I just want to put it out there because some people had asked a few things about sharpening. At the time, I thought, oh, it's no big deal. I've seen all these people, even Glen Lucas, saying it's no problem. So I'm sure it's no problem. Well, no, it's a problem. You're going to have to regrind it, just like pretty much all your other tools. So there you go. Fair warning. Wanted to put that out there to y'all. Didn't want to mislead anybody. Buy a $100 tool. Think it's going to be all easy. You know, it never is. All right. Thanks, guys.